Hey, it's me. I'm out in West Seattle. Do you want to hop in? Okay, cool. I'll be there soon.
Hey, ladies. How are you?
How things been?
Very good. Interest rates are climbing, but I think buyers are being stubborn and inventory is still very low.
What have you been seeing in the West Seattle market?
Well, I mean, things are still going really, really quickly. 4 or 5 days, an offer review date. I have noticed that instead of 10 or 12 offers on the house, maybe you're getting 5 or 6. So less competition, but still competition.
Do you think that's from less buyers because of interest rates?
I think so.
Seeing less.
I think buyers are getting burnt out. I
Yeah.
think,
Well, priced out too. Like, so say they were, when rates were 3.25, they were able to afford 1.4. Now rates are 5%. So that 1.4, that difference in payment is like probably $700-800 a month in payment.
yeah, that's huge. I still tell my clients who are looking in West Seattle or in Seattle in general that they really still have to keep looking. I don't think these home prices are going to stop rising. And I think you got to get in when you can and then adjust to the market as the opportunity presents itself with interest rates and such.
I think the mindset of like the rate, I mean, rate's important, but it's really short-term thinking. Like if you're looking at it as you're investing in real estate for the long term, or like if we look at when we bought our first house, we turned around and sold it in 5 years and made like $800,000.
Right.
So the long term was, in our rate back then, I think it was close to 5% or 4.5%. Normal rates. I feel like with COVID, everyone kind of got spoiled with these under 3 rates, which are just not realistic. But if we're short-term thinkers and we just didn't get into the market because we were sensitive to rate, like scared of all that, and hoping to get a rate under 3% again, I think a lot of people are just in their head with recession equals housing market crash, prices are going to go down, so I'm just going to wait till this recession comes around.
Right. Well, and also I feel like the recession in 2008 had a lot to do with faulty loans, right? And
Oh yeah,
a lot of people coming in and it was all stated loans and stated borrowers. And now the paper trail is so thick and secure that kind of protected ourselves against that. I remember stories of people walking in and telling the lenders what they made and
no verification.
getting
Right.
pre-approved on the spot using ARMs and interest-only loans at that time, which were really meant for builders and developers and for people who are keeping an eye on the market, not your conventional home buyers or whatnot.
Big thing is, which we have to do now, is one, we have to qualify the buyer off of the adjusted rate. Back then, they didn't. So we have to make sure that not only do they qualify for the house at the interest rate now, but that they're going to qualify once that adjustment happens, still be able to pay their mortgage. 7
or 10 years down the road.
Right. Oh wait. I mean, it was one of the biggest factors of the recession was the housing market crash, but it was because, and that's people are related because houses were appreciating as they are now. So that is the one thing that's similar. But we are so heavily regulated. Like I have clients that complain about all this stuff.
Sure,
And
yeah.
it's like, this is, yes, it sucks, and yes, this is what I have to do. I had a client last month that was like, I hope you don't have to do this with everybody's loan. I was like, no, this is how it is.
Pretty
But
standard.
it's because everyone wants us to be that regulated because then we're not going to have a housing market crash like people.
Right.
People can actually afford the houses they're getting. I mean, even in a situation right now where things are appreciating or houses are going for, like out in this market, 500,000 or 500,000 more than they're listed at.
Yeah.
But it's either they're paying the appraisal gap, which means they're buying the house for more than it's worth, yes, but they're also putting money in. So it's not like we're lending on the higher value.
It's true.
We're lending on what it appraises at. So then you have the argument that people are saying, well, people are buying for houses for more than they're worth. And it might be true in the fact that it appraises at 1.2 and they bought 1.3, but we're not lending on 1.3. So we lent on the 1.2. They just had to put another $100,000 out of pocket.
And so that's interesting point because in 2008, there were people going with zero down.
Zero down, like interest only. And when the house went to $1 million value, they still owed 1.2, or they still owed whatever their loan started at. They weren't paying down their principal at all.
Right.
So 5 years later, they still owed just as much. So if they did buy the house and it did dip, because I mean, historically, houses are going to fluctuate in value. We've had a good spot for the last probably 7-8 years here, where we've just continued to appreciate. I do think a lot of that was an adjustment because we were, and a lot of the tech stuff and money coming to Seattle, the Seattle area, like that's helped our economy, and so there's more higher paid jobs here and people that are able to afford higher paid or higher housing. We're lending on what the houses are worth, so I guess that's the difference.
I heard a financial advisor tell one of his clients that the way rich people buy homes is with arms. And I'm talking about like the rich people, the wealthy people who are buying $2 million, maybe $3 million homes. These people are not traditionally in conventional loans. They're actually utilizing arms.
Well, and the reason is, so there's a statistic we've talked a lot about lately as well, that statistically, the client is going to be in the same loan, so not the house, but the same loan for like an average of 4.64 years. So that's where you're also thinking, okay, and that's where the conversation I'm having a lot right now with clients is like, arms are better because one, right now the rates are cheaper, just cheaper pricing. But statistically speaking, you probably won't be in this loan for more than 4.64 years on average. So probably have refinanced, not sold the house, because you could still think this is your forever home.
Right.
But something's going to happen in the market probably in the next 5 years, or at least the 7 years if you have a 7/6 arm, where you are going to refinance or pull cash out or something. That's the thinking when it comes to the higher priced housing. It's a lot of like the short-term, long-term thinking.
Right. We're staying in tune with the market. And
Right.
like we talked about earlier, they're getting in at the best opportunity and then taking advantage of better opportunities in the market as they present themselves, as in rates dropping and being easier to get into conventional lending. Yeah.
Well, and I think as an investor, I mean, I'm in finance position or money side of things, but I feel like buying a house is an investment, and so you should pay attention to that investment. Most homeowners, once you buy a house, you don't just not pay attention to it. I think a lot of homeowners value what their neighborhood's doing. You're paying attention to that investment, just like what you would if you put money into a stock. You're going to see what that stock's doing. Is it up, is it down, what's going on? So I think that's the people that are in the higher wealth area are more mindful of their investments, and that they're looking at it as an investment and a moneymaker. And so I think everyone kind of needs, if you have that mindset, you don't just get a 30-year term and loan and then figure, oh, I'm just going to have this for 30 years.
It's a good point to make. I mean, people are not in that same loan for more than 4.5 years. So there's a move to be made. I think the thing that's most important is that you're getting in the market when you can. Because right now in Seattle, we're not seeing pricing of homes dipping, and the competition, even though people have been priced out, there's still very little inventory. So if you want to live in Seattle or anywhere around there, you just got to take advantage of the opportunity and see what works for you, and not focus so much on the actual price of the home, but I think focusing on your actual monthly payment. Your eyes and your perspective of a neighborhood might really be skewed, right? Like, I grew up in West Seattle, and looking at the Delridge community and seeing homes priced for $800,000, $900,000 just kind of blows my mind, because I grew up seeing what Delridge once was.
When we first moved here, my husband, I was going to an open house in Delridge. It's like, you're not going to an open house in Delridge, because it was not the best area.
Right.
But it was like it was $1 million of new construction. And so there's been a lot of change in that neighborhood. I mean, there's people in West Seattle that have lived in the same house for 40 years, and it's like they bought it for $300,000 or not even.
Yeah, it's interesting because 35th is like this imaginary boundary line in West Seattle. Everything west of 35th is like in the 25% more than east of 35th. I think it's a real important thing to have an agent, if you're listing a house or even buying a house, who understands the neighborhood. Because I've heard of people buying in West Seattle, but being on the far sort of east side of 35th and wondering why their neighborhood feels not so great. Yeah, you're in West Seattle, but there's many different parts. Without the bridge, it's been interesting to see how West Seattle has continued to grow and rise in like home values and price points, because we're pretty much an island out here.
Do you think the bridge thing is hindered at all?
So here's my take. I think when the bridge went down, I think that people who knew, who understood West Seattle and who were sold on West Seattle as their neighborhood that they wanted to be in, I think it benefited those buyers, and it wiped out some of the buyers who were searching online or who were looking to live in West Seattle because they worked close or downtown was a easy access point on a good day.
So for people that are looking to buy here, should buy here before the bridge opens?
I would say so. But that's what I'm saying is like you have to change your lens and perspective with the changing market. And buying a home for $1 million now in Seattle, I mean that's pretty damn close to the median house price. Like the median house price in Seattle is $950,000.
Now, and that's the unfortunate part, making $100,000 in our area is not. It used to be like that was the goal. 6 figures. Let's go check it out.
Yeah, let's go. Let's drive to this newly listed home in West Seattle. It's got a fantastic vibe to it. Let's take a little peek at it. This house even had nice water views.
And mountain views.
This is definitely a place where people can raise children and have kids run around and walk in. I mean, there's a ton of people walking their dogs and jogging. So it's a great neighborhood. That house to me just screamed like single bachelorette.
Right. At the Airbnb or the short-term rental, or like when the college kids come home, they have a place to be. I haven't seen that for a long time. I know a few clients in this price point that are like they want Airbnb or short-term rental potential because they want to offset some of the mortgage. So because housing prices are higher.
I like our uniform for this episode.
Denim game.
Next episode, we'll drive through another neighborhood and show you another listing. Maybe, I don't know, Renton, Seward Park, Lake Washington.
Talk about the differences. Also talk about, kind of as right now, markets and everything's trending and changing. We want to use this kind of as a good conversation. We have these conversations, I feel like, every time we meet up. And so we wanted to make it where we need to get the camera out, let people in on the conversations that we have every time we see each other, because there's so much going on. If you're on the fence of buying, or don't know what you
can't afford, or
can't afford, or kind of are scared about the housing market, this will hopefully give you some insight. We hope that we'll give you enough information that you want to trust us enough to move forward with us from the lending and the real estate side. Thanks for joining us on our carpool conversations in West Seattle.
You guys are looking to figure out what it's like to live, eat, work, play in West Seattle. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We've got your back. Give us a call.
Sometimes you wanna go.